I'm the sports professor, Rick Horrow. Welcome to Beyond the Scoreboard, Inside the Mega Events. It's a trillion-dollar sports business, to be sure, and about 50 to 60% of those dollars are wrapped up in the mega events, the championships, Super Bowls, All-Star Games, World Series, Wimbledon, tennis majors, golf majors, NASCAR championships, IndyCar championships, Ryder Cup. All of those too numerous to mention. I'm in my office to kick off the show, but I'm not here a lot. I'll be on the road on a weekly basis to bring you the inside tips from those major events. The balance sheets, who wins, who loses, the interviews, how you put on the events, and how you sustain them. This is all brought to you by Edelman Financial.
Money doesn't come with instructions. That's why we created Edelman Financial Services to help you with everything from college and retirement planning to managing your investments, helping you achieve retirement security. We're among the nation's top financial advisors. Come see how we can help you.
Sports Professor Rick Horrow, inside the mega events, and we are at a mega event. You know, when baseball opens, we don't just go to a game. We go to the headquarters. Minor League Baseball celebrates its what year? What year? We don't know.
100 plus year?
100 plus year. That's right. This is Robert Fountain. He's Deputy General Counsel. I guarantee you he's going to be a little better with other answers down the road, okay? But it's over 100 years and more than 40 million fans, 160 teams all over the country. And tonight, well, we're going to see this tomorrow. Yesterday, opening day, ladies and gentlemen, all over minor league baseball, and in many ways, minor league baseball, fan experience, content, legacy, history, certainly on par. There's nothing minor about minor league baseball, as Robert will tell us. Deputy General Counsel Robert Fountain, who knows basically everything about every bylaw and every rule in minor league baseball.
Let's hope so.
Well, you better, because if you don't, there's nobody that's going to be here that does, right? So give us a snapshot pretty quickly about minor league baseball, what the governing structure is for people that basically don't know.
So here at Minor League Baseball, that's our doing business as name, but we're technically the National Association of Professional Baseball Leagues Incorporated, which we're a trade organization for the 160 member clubs. So the member clubs in 42 states belong to the leagues, which we have 14 member leagues, who then are part of the National Association of Professional Baseball Leagues. So that is Minor League Baseball's overarching umbrella here, and that's our home office here.
And the relationship is you don't own any pieces of the 160 clubs, but you govern them all, directly or indirectly, through the respective leagues.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we basically are looking over the governance aspect of them through our bylaws, but we're not. Each of the individual leagues also have their own bylaws to help govern the member clubs as well. And
remember, Major League Baseball affiliates with all of these minor league teams and basically pays the cost of the players, but the ownership, the stadium, community support, tickets, all of that is purely a local effort within each community.
Correct. Everything outside the white lines is we're responsible for.
So just to give us perspective, and then we'll get to the fun part, one of the things that people can see easily that separates minor league baseball from a lot of other sports and is not minor is the legacy, the history, the commitment in towns who have hundreds of years, 100 years plus, of teams affiliated with either the major league team existing or others, where players have come through on their way to the major leagues, stadiums. Some are relics, most of them are now becoming renovated. But there is that grassroots history that you don't find in a lot of other sports. Talk about it.
Yeah, so we've been around since 1901, I believe, so we have an extensive history. Vast majority, I'd say 95% of players or more probably are coming through our system. So no one's skipping over minor league baseball. Once they're drafted, they're coming through our ranks. And so fans, as they come out to our stadiums, they're getting to see the future stars of tomorrow at the Major League Baseball level. So there's a long history of the greatest players playing in our ballparks before they get to the big league ballparks. So it's an excellent opportunity for fans to see the next generation of stars up close.
And you have the ability, through the Constitution and the governance of minor league baseball, to pretty much help with best practices those teams, but also a little bit of a stick as well. There are stadium standards. You want to make sure that the stadiums are wonderful experiences for fans, entertainment complexes, as well as satisfying the needs of the Major League Baseball teams who bring their players through, right?
Correct. So there's two focuses, right? It's being the best partner we can to Major League Baseball to provide the best facilities to Major League Baseball so that their players can develop and top-notch facilities and get that experience of playing in front of fans every day. And so we're trying to provide the best quality of overall facilities for the players to play in, but also give fans, who are our second focus, the great family-friendly affordability aspects that we offer here at minor league baseball.
Second piece, we're going to need some help to explain. So we have two associates here who are executive producers, whose names are? Mackenzie, who we know, and Chanel. And by the way, they are interns, but they're not interns here, they're associates, which kind of tells you how important that position is to minor league baseball, which is great. Mackenzie, you pan back so we can see what we're talking about. This is the hat room. 160 teams, 160 hats, 160 logos, and that's the second piece that minor league baseball has over everybody else, which is the wacky, wild merchandise slash logo, branding that comes out. Outrageous, more outrageous, more outrageous. Well, what's the business strategy for that? Obviously having fun and notoriety.
Yeah, I think it's the notoriety, right? The crazier, the better is really what's driving the trends these days. I feel like, at least when I hear some of the names, they're completely off the wall. Usually they're made up these days in some ways, but they're fun and they're relatable to kids. I feel like the kids are enjoying them. It's something that you can see at your local youth facilities where, you know what, someone wants to go around and be the Rubber Ducks, right? Yeah. It's being something a little bit off the wall.
Akron, I
that
even
is
know
correct.
That. Right.
Yes.
Rubber City, Akron.
Yep.
And by the way, the guy that owns the Akron Rubber Ducks, he owns the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. How's that?
2 for 2.
2 for 2. Yeah, exactly. So that's that's a good point. Are we able to talk generally about the merchandise numbers all told in minor league baseball? It's a big number. Right? They're big.
It is a big number. Retail sales, I believe, were over $74 million, I believe, or close to that this past year.
But trending upward.
Trending upward at a higher growth rate than all other sports, I believe. It's shooting up, and it has been consistently for the past 5 years.
Well, and here's why we drafted Robert, not just because he's an attorney and because he's arguably a pretty face, but he's the guy
Arguably,
yeah, remember that. But he's the guy who is at point for all of the logo development where you see the wacky hats and merchandise, but that's at the back end. The front end, Robert sees every time. So here are the 4 new ones for this year. Might be more, but I think we have 4. So we're starting with the Las Vegas Aviators, right?
That's correct.
Aviators, pretty benign, right? I mean, but that's what's the reasoning behind the Aviators? Do we know?
My understanding is play off of that.
Got to start it again. That's okay. Good. Doesn't that figure? So the Las Vegas Aviators, we're starting to talk about that, and is there some aviation history in Las Vegas?
Quite a bit, and they're owned by the Howard Hughes Corporation. So given their ownership structure, they decided to have a little play on that. And as we noticed when we were out playing golf at Shadow Creek, there's quite a few planes flying over on a consistent basis out there. So. Shameless
plug for Shadow Creek, by the way. That gets us there for next year. So the Vegas Aviators, the Rocky Mountain vibes. How about that? What city is that?
Colorado Springs.
Okay. Former the Sky Sox.
That is correct.
Right, and so they did that because they just wanted to change it up a little bit?
Yeah, something different, something much more exciting. And so they went with this mallow between the graham crackers here, toasted, and it's a fun mark, I think. It's got plenty of energy, I'd say, or it's got vibes coming off of it. It's a good mark. One that I personally like out of the new class of marks. I think it'll play well with the kids.
So let's remember that when Robert went to law school, he's thinking, what am I going to do when I grow up? I know I'm going to approve hats that have a couple of graham crackers with a marshmallow in between it. How about that?
One of the trademarks I filed here was a bacon strip. I never thought in my life, when I'm going through law school, I'll be filing a trademark for a bacon strip. And,
you got a million of them. All right, so this one, the Fayetteville Woodpeckers, right?
I like this one because it's not as wacky, but it's a classy look, right? This is a mark I feel like that can stay around for decades and still be different, but still classy at the same time. I mean, not everyone's going to love the in-your-face, flashy marks that we've seen here. But this one, to me, is an absolute classy one, and some kids out there are still going to want to walk around with a woodpecker on their shirt. You know, it's something fun, it's different, but it's not too different.
Is there anything indigenous to woodpeckers in Fayetteville or vice versa?
I'm sure there is. I would usually we're trying to look for some type of local connection. The designers that are coming up with these marks are looking for local connections to that community, and so that's always a part of the process here.
The Fayetteville Woodpeckers, ladies and gentlemen. Now, here's for the local connection, and this is, and I'll get it right. It's the Amarillo sand aardvarks. No.
Close.
The
good old sod poodles.
Sod poodles, ladies and gentlemen. All right, now, you got to explain, walk us through how this happened. So Amarillo, new stadium, movement among teams from different cities. So talk a little bit about this.
So going into this season, there's a little bit of shifting going on. So you had the Colorado Springs Sky Sox, who were playing in Colorado Springs as a AAA club. They relocate to San Antonio, and at that point they become the San Antonio Missions, who move from AA to AAA, and then the AA San Antonio club relocates to a brand new stadium in Amarillo, opening up on Monday night, where I'll be. And so they're going to open up, and they need to decide to rename themselves as part of the new rebranding process and opening up a new ballpark. And so the designers sit down with the club ownership, and they try and come up with a name that really embodies the area, something different, something fun, but also something that's going to have that connection. So they settled on the Amarillo Sod Poodles.
Yeah. All right, now you're going to explain why, right?
My understanding and reading it, and Brandios was the creators behind this. My understanding is that's what they called I'm spacing it, prairie dog, as they were coming across the plains and seeing these. A fun name for them is sod poodles, and so they liked the idea of a prairie dog. They just didn't want to be the prairie dog, so they went for something a little bit more exciting and opted on the sod poodles.
I think what we need to do, you and I, we need to develop and capitalize a new business, which has to do with ophthalmology, because if people in Amarillo think a prairie dog looks like a poodle, but we got some major issues here coming up, I think is right. But so you get multiple choices and you approve, or you get one from the owner. And by the way, Brandios, this is sophisticated. This is not at the back of a napkin. There are firms that are paid big money for this all over minor league baseball, you ought to know. So you get the one that they've chosen, and then you run it through the legal mill?
So it starts a little bit farther back, right? It starts with the name. So they will be talking with club ownership, right, and coming up with some potential names. And they come up with a list of names. Some cases it's a name the team contest where they solicit fans for ideas, right? They collect as many ideas as they can. Then they start to look through focus groups about what would resonate in the community. At that point, they settle down to a couple, and I'm not sure. I'd have to look back to see whether or not they went with the name the team contest. But they end up settling on 4 or 5 names, right, that are the front runners. And at that point, usually it's a contest where you got fan voting, and they vote for their favorite. In which case, I do think that was the case for the Sod Poodles. And they submit those names to our office to then search and clear the marks and make sure that we have a trademark available to us that we'll be able to use. So they submit those, we do a search and clear, say, you know what, these names are available, and at that point, then they know that they can select a name, fans can select a name that will be protectable in the future, and at that point, they then move on with the design aspect of it. And then that's when Brandios starts drawing up all the different designs that could embody a sod poodle. And
a lot of them, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure.
Right, and so they come up with all their different designs. So it's not just the home cap logo we see here. It's the primary logo. It's all the alternate, right, the BP caps, all those things that you see related to our promotions and branding. And then they submit those designs to us again. We go through a search and clear again to make sure that, again, those marks are protectable. They're not being used by any other companies. At that point, then, we say, all right, you got the green light and you can move forward. But when our teams are coming up with these names and talking with fans and trying to come up with the most catchy names, we are very much states' rights. We allow them to pick what they want and what they feel best embodies that community, because they know their local communities better than we do from this office. And so we give them that right to do so.
Ever have a last-minute fight amongst owners over, like, who's first at the courthouse door to you as far as logos and trademarks are concerned?
There's a couple times where there's some similarities, right, where we'll see maybe 2 or 3 marks that come through, and we say, those are all very similar in some ways, different designers coming up with different things, but it's first in line, first in right when it comes to trademark law typically. So.
And by the way, so you understand, this guy typically, I've known him for a while, minimizes his role in this process. This is, if you don't get past Robert Fountain, you don't get this hat, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. So, final piece of this. Where is minor league baseball going? What's kind of the biggest challenge, the biggest opportunity long term, let's say?
I still think we're trending upwards. Yeah. Things have been really good here. I've enjoyed my 8 years here. Continued growth, whether it be through attendance, typically year after year. I mean, we had a bad weather year last year, but overall attendance has been trending upward. But also just the overall business, the quality of the product that we're putting out has just increased year after year, which has been really exciting and impressive to see from my aspect. The designs that you're seeing, the quality of the designs. When you look at the hat wall, initial marks that were created 10, 15 years ago, what we have now is just, it's a better product, right? The hats are better. The stadiums are better. Everything I feel like we're putting out is just of higher quality. But where we face the challenge, I think, is getting brands to recognize that, the old minor league baseball that you knew 25, 30 years ago isn't the same minor league baseball that we are today. We're much more advanced. We still provide that great, affordable, family-friendly entertainment, but there's more to it than that.
Couldn't have said it any better myself or anybody around here. And when you look at the Sports Business Journal and others who identify the new best growth companies, there are typically major leagues, but as Robert has said, there's really nothing minor about minor league baseball, and they're poised for the future. Opening day, and I can't wait to see the Amarillos, Sound Poodles, Sand Poodles, Sod Poodles. Ladies and gentlemen, Rick Horrow, Beyond the Scoreboard, Inside the Mega Event. See you next week.